All right, welcome back. Now, in this video, I wanted to just show you how you can increase the value in the asking price of your business. And I'm not going to say it's easy, but I'm going to say it's a fairly simple thing that you can look at, and hopefully there's going to be some meat there that you can kind of work on to try and get a better result and a better asking price. So in this example here, what we're looking at, I've just made some numbers up here. This is what we call the appraisal calculator, or it's just a basic spreadsheet that's going to work out some of the key numbers when we look at where the value and potential asking price of your business might sit at the moment. So I won't go into, there are other videos in the sales section about how to use this document, and you can download one from there. So I won't go into details about that. What I'm going to do is just show you what we're looking at here. So all I've done is enter in some figures here, so weekly averages for what those figures might be, and it's worked out monthly and annual across there. As you come down, you're going to see it shows you at the bottom weekly net profit. It then further down from there annualizes that net profit, which in this example is 142,000. And then over here, we've got the current, for this type of business in this location, we've got the current multiple. So how many times of net profit those businesses are currently selling for. So this is kind of where we're sitting in the normalized market at the time of recording this video. And then that then converts here to the potential range of value. So if we zoom in, you can see that this particular example, this business is anywhere from 199 up to 242, based on certain criteria and different things, depending on lease and lots of other bits and pieces that, again, are covered in other videos in the sales section. So I won't get too sidetracked by that at the moment, but you get the idea. So basically, you're looking at this, in this example, on these figures, the business is currently worth, and this is what we need to look at now, 199 up to 242. So bearing that in mind, what I'm going to suggest is that if we look at the food costs of this business, that's at 34. And also if we look at the labor, wages are at 36%. So what I'm going to propose is that we try and look at, are there ways that we can bring those down even fractionally, even just a little bit, 1 or 2%? You know, can we influence some change now? And it's very unusual to work with somebody and to look at this and not be able to find a little bit of something that you can tweak or change to bring that down. So for this example, using the same figures, all I've done here is I've worked on a 2% reduction of each of those cost of goods and food percentage, wage percentage, which as you'll appreciate, usually along with rent, which we can't do much about, those two are the ones that are highest expenses that we can influence and change on. So we're looking for a very small tweak, a small change, just in this example, 2%. And that would equate to, on the cost of goods, and you can see here, that's going to basically bring it down to bring the figure down by $300 from where it was. And on the wages, $400 over a week. So those two figures, very achievable on this level of turnover, very realistic. And to be honest, we can usually, when we work with people on this, we can usually get it lower than this. So if you start scrutinizing the rosters and you start looking at all your invoices, all your suppliers, what you're paying for things, what your wastage is, and that kind of thing, to get an extra 300 off on cost of goods and 400 off on wages, not a huge ask. So I would say if you are struggling with that and you want an objective opinion or you want a second opinion, feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to have a look at that. But most people, when they put their hand on their heart and they go through these numbers in detail, can squeeze that out. So what we're going to do based on those figures, so the 300 and the 400 there, naturally that is going to give you an extra 700, which is going to drop straight onto the bottom line here. So you can see the net profit compared to the previous example is up, and that then takes that previous annual net profit that we had of 142 to 179,000. So that's a big difference. That's, you know, two fairly small changes. Just goes to show the importance of really staying on top of those numbers and making sure that you are exactly where you need to be and that you're not overspending on either of those, because that effectively, that's what, an extra 30 grand in your pocket there just for really tightening those up and getting them where they should be. there's a lot of pushback from, you know, people saying, oh, I can't get my wages that low, I can't get my food costs that low. Well, I can tell you that I'm working with one-on-one clients in lots of different scenarios. So some table service, some counter service, some a mixture of both, or covering all the different options, some with full kitchens, some just takeaway only. And I can tell you that across all of those different scenarios, there are people hitting the benchmarks and below on those figures. So it can be done. Even if you can't get down to those benchmark figures or best practice figures, then if you can squeeze 1 or 2% off, it's going straight onto the bottom line, which in the short term is going to obviously make the business more profitable. It's going to give you more income as you go through the sale process. But more importantly, for this process, it's going to increase the sales price and what you can ask. So I've left the multiples the same for the example as it was before. And then over here, you can see I've created a table that shows you the previous range as we looked at 199 up to 242. And then the revised range based on the new profit. So you can see in this example, that reduction of $700 a week, so a 2% reduction in cost of goods, 2% reduction in wages has made a difference of effectively, well, $50,000 to $60,000 in the range of asking price. So you always try and talk to people about the planning and the preparation, you know, going into the exit planning process. This, if you're not doing it already, is a great time to really get on top of your percentages and your numbers and make sure that you have got the best cost of goods, you have got the best wage percentage that you can possibly have. Any changes that you can make are going to influence, as you can see here, your sale price and your profitability in the short term through the sale process in a huge way. So for the investment in time, it's, you know, it really is, I can't encourage you strongly enough to get your head around this and get this worked out. It really is a very, very useful process. And there's very few people that we've worked with that haven't been able to do this. So do have a good look, go through and make sure that you're exactly where you want to be, because that can make a huge difference. Bear in mind that it's perfectly okay in the sales process to communicate to buyers that, you know, the profit is higher now than it was previously, or on the P&Ls, or any of the historic data that you're giving them as part of their due diligence. It's very common for us to say to buyers that when we started working with this client, the food costs were out of control and the wages were too high. We've worked with them, we've got the profitability where it should be, and we'll actually sell the business based on the current figures, not the historical figures. People are interested in what the business is doing now, and if you use the right sales techniques, then you can demonstrate that you fixed problems that the business had previously. They're buying it in the best shape possible and sell off the current profitability. So I hope that all makes sense. I hope that encourages you to really have a good, hard, objective look at your numbers of those two key metrics, cost of goods and wages, to make sure that they're where they could be. I'm really interested to know how you got on and how you do progress with this. So please get in touch if you've got any questions or anything you're not sure about this. But as I said, this is one thing it's really crucial that you get onto in the early stages of the sale process to make sure that you're maximizing the asking price and making as much profit and getting as much out of the business as you can whilst you're going through that sales process. So as always, feel free to post any comments, questions or suggestions in the comments below, and I look forward to hearing about how you get on, and I'll see you in the next video.